Hi everyone, welcome back to another edition of my videos, and today I want to show you another one of my positions. This was from one of my recent League of Nations games. I'm going to try and split this into two parts. So this first part will be kind of, I guess I will look at sort of more the openings, maybe the start of the middle game, and then the second part will kind of be finishing off the game and having a look at the end position. So this was a really interesting position. I got myself into a bit of trouble earlier on in position, and well, you'll see here that I really started to struggle as I got into the middle game. But was I able to prevail? Well, the good news is there was time pressure involved and there's a bit of a time scramble at the end, so hopefully I'm able to survive this position, but we'll see what happens. So e4, e5, I was playing black here by the way, knight to f3, knight to c6, bishop c4, knight to f6, and I was fully expecting we'll go into another two knights defense and a knight attack. As you know, I've had this position about 5 times out of the 27 games I'm analysing this channel. We've had five of the games have reached this position with the knight coming to g5, and it's just a very popular move at club level, because I think white just fully expects that black is not going to know the theory and hopefully get a nice quick easy win. But in this position d3 was played. A much more different position. So this is in fact the main line position. It is the line that all the grandmasters love to play. I'll give you a nice big list. There is the top 4 games are all Carlsen games, so Carlsen himself actually quite likes playing this particular opening. But we have a Vladimir Kramnik game, there's a Anish Giri, he's played on the white side as well. There's a Ding Liren game, so it's a very popular move, and you might be wondering yourself, why is it so popular? Well, it's just a nice modest developing move really. You know, we're getting our bishop ready to come out. This pawn is now nicely defended. We're looking at ideas of playing c3 and maybe pushing with d4. It's a very quiet position. It's known as the very quiet game, or the Gaucho Pianissimo, which I've totally mispronounced. But it's certainly a very nice slow build-up opening, and I think it's a very difficult opening to play against on the black side. You've got to basically sit there and take a beating almost, as white just hasn't really got too many weaknesses in the position. Everything is solid, this pawn structure is defending everything, and it's just nice. He's got this nice simple straightforward development, getting his king developed and slowly expanding in the center. It's very reminiscent even of actually almost like a Spanishy type of position as well. So now in the past against this I've played bishop to c5, and this is the most popular line against it, and well, it makes sense. We're developing the bishop, we're controlling the center. We've got some influence on this diagonal and potentially hitting on f2 if we need to. But the problem I've found in the past when I've played this in sort of on the board chess in the past is I don't like these ideas of c3 and instead of just pushing open with d4. In fact, I've seen times when my opponent plays b4 and then starts rapidly expanding on the queen side, and it can feel very cramping. It's almost as if you're kind of getting squeezed off the board. Black doesn't really get any counterplay, I find, in those positions personally. I'm sure the super GMs have found some really good ways of playing these sort of positions, but I just don't like it. I'm not a big fan of playing incredibly cramped positions where I'm just going to get slowly squeezed to death. Okay, with this bishop though, typically if you are going to play this way, you'll tend to see these two pawns move, so maybe d6 and also a6 as well, and this bishop tucking into a7. It sort of sits there for most of the game, but it's still got a big influence on this center and along this diagonal. It almost reminds me actually, this sort of position, almost like a reverse London on the black side, except obviously the knight not here. But this sort of structure with the bit of pawn coming forward, maybe the bishop tucking in there. It's very snug, it's very nice, and it's certainly solid. Of the games I've played over the board, I've actually played it twice with black, and both times I've drawn. So certainly not a bad position to have. Although, as I say, both of those games I felt like I had probably a slightly losing edge for most of the position, and I just had to sort of sit there and take a beating and hopefully survive. So instead, I've been looking a little bit at a different way of playing this, and I've got a Chessable opening course. It's free as well, and it's absolutely fantastic for a free course. And it's an opening system on the 2 knights, and it actually recommends against this d3 idea of playing h6. And you might be wondering yourself, what the heck is this move all about? You're already, why you need to worry about, doing this knight coming here? You already got this. Well, h6 is, I think it's a really interesting idea. The point is, h6 is now getting ready to play g5. After g5, g4 comes in. Very prehistoric, if I may say so, sort of caveman style attacking. But the nice thing about it is this will decentralize this knight. This knight has a very good control over the center. It controls a lot of key squares, a lot of key areas. But by playing this way, if we can decentralize this knight, it's really going to mess up a lot of the potential straightforward plans that white has in this sort of position and controlling the center. The downside of it is, well, we're weakening the king side. This is the big problem. So we're playing these moves. It looks really fancy. It looks really nice in the short term, but in the long term, our king is going to get a little bit unsafe going along here. I've even seen some games in some of the positions where, in actual fact, Black sort of develops his pieces along this way and the castle's long, just so he doesn't have to worry about his terrible pawn structure, and then he just goes for an all-in attack on the king's side. So typically, if you're playing this on the white side, one of the key things to note is whenever your opponent is playing a flank attack like I'm doing here, so this sort of attacking on the flanks along here, you should always try and attack in the center. This is a Nimzowitsch positional idea in his book My System. He always says against a flank attack you should strike in the center. And well, essentially here, if white can blast open the center, he's going to get a very good position. He's going to have the whole center to himself. He's going to have total control over me, and it will be very difficult for me to find adequate counterplay as we find in this position. So in any case, how did the game go? Well, castles was played, and here I actually mix up the move order slightly. I played g5 here, and this is actually a mistake. Now, if you're white, you would be looking at this move d4 now. d4 comes in, striking in the center, everything opens up. White is going to end up in a much better position. After e takes, let's say, knight captures here. You might be asking yourself now, what was the whole point of doing h6 g5 now? It looks stupid. I'm no longer threatening the knight with a tempo. What was the whole point? I've just weakened my king's side for absolutely nothing. White's got a nice knight in the center. I think white is doing actually pretty well in this position. So yeah, this is the bit of a problem why playing this way. Another thing that I can do, if you're wondering, can I just play g4 here? Well, this is the problem. Knight jumps into e5, win a pawn. You take your pick which way you want to capture. If you capture the knights, you capture this way. Everything starts to fall apart. You might be wondering, can I not just capture this pawn here? This is the problem though. Knights, bishop, queen to d4. Where does this knight go? If he goes to, let's say c5, there's one option. e6 comes in. Really powerful stuff. Black's position starts to sort of crumble a little bit. Rook to h7 to try and defend this square. We can just capture it off, and well, yeah, I don't think I need to look at this any further. I think white is doing extremely well here. So that is certainly something that we don't want to get involved in. So yeah, a little bit of a mistake. He could have played d4 instead, though. Bishop e3, which gave me a bit of life. I play bishop to, I play bishop to g7 now. So getting my bishop on this diagonal. Knight came, c3 was played, so now getting this particular idea of moving the bishop back to b3 and coming to c2 to control the centre. It looks as though white is going into his sort of main pianissimo plan and then hopefully expand in the centre. Okay, so I castled. Bishop came back to b3, and here actually I could now play d5, and I think this would have been a very interesting way of playing. I think would have certainly secured an edge for me, but instead I played d6. So just keeping in line with what my plans were, and h3 was played. So we've reached, I guess, the almost the end of the opening position now. Both sides are doing whatever they want to do in this position. We see that white's got a very simple plan. Maybe move his bishop back to c2, start breaking open in the centre, and then hopefully have a nice space advantage to play with. Meanwhile, black will be looking to try and do something on the king side, maybe at some point play g4 and try and open up and crack open white's king side in the process, using hopefully the activity of his pieces to achieve a very, very good game. So I'm going to finish this part here. So in the next part we'll go into some of the middle game and what happened in the rest of the position. So stay tuned for that. If you haven't already, guys, make sure you subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell, and you'll get any new updates or any new videos that I have coming out. Okay, thank you very much, guys. I'll speak to you soon. Take care.